Hi, and welcome back for another CottageCutz YouTube video tutorial. This is Marla with Mad About Cards and Crafts, bringing you this adorable birthday card featuring products from CottageCutz, available now in the Scrap and Cottage. Here's a look at the die cuts from CottageCutz I'll be using. I have the fence with grass. I've cut it out twice. I have the happy birthday with shadow. Here is a look at the shadow pieces that have been die cut, all from Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock. And then I have all of the elements for the birthday hedgehog. I've colored up my hedgehog off camera. I'm adding some of the details. I have a little, this is a Copic pen, and I've added the eyes and the nose. There are natural indentations that the die creates for some of these pieces. So instead of having separate eyes and separate nose, you just need to color in the indentations that were created from the die. I'm doing the same thing with some Copic markers in E50s to add the eyebrows, the mouth, and then there's some little wrinkles on this adorable hedgehog's face. To add some color to his cheeks and to his ears, I used an R2 marker, and then of course I always like to add a few little freckles to my critters, and I'm using a white gel pen for that. The way that this hedgehog body and I guess its hair go together is you want to tuck in the head underneath the top portion of the hair, and then you want to leave the bottom portion hanging out so that it will be on top of the hair. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. I'm aligning everything together, and then I'll use a little bit of wet glue to get everything in place. I'm going to start building my hedgehog, and while I'm doing that, I did want to talk about the giveaway. I am, or I should say the Scrap and Cottage is generously giving away the fence with grass die for this video. In order to qualify for the giveaway, you do need to be a subscriber, like the video, and make sure that you leave a comment. Unfortunately, due to shipping costs, this is available only to residents with a U.S. mailing address. So if you live in the United States and you'd like to win the fence with grass die, make sure that you follow all of those steps to qualify. This little hedgehog comes with a couple of birthday presents and a balloon, so I'm adding the colored balloon to his hand. And then I'll add the birthday hat behind his little hair, so I added a dollop of glue to the bottom of the birthday hat and attached it. I like to add dimension to my die cuts, and I do that with Copic markers in this case. So I'm adding a C4 marker to the left side of my fence. Once I get the vertical lines down, I'll come in and go underneath the bottom, the horizontal slats on the bottom, and add that C4, and then I'll blend it out to soften those lines with a C0, and you can see that it really does add that additional dimension with just that little bit of coloring on that die cut. In my last video, I was giving away the Small Flowers die from the Flowers and More release, and I wanted to announce that the winner of that die is Pam BR2. Pam, I will have Mary Marsh's information linked in the description box below. You can contact her via email, let her know you're the winner, and she'll make sure that you get the die to your home. Moving on to my stenciling, I'm using a Tailored Expressions masking stencil. This has etched lines around the outside. They're really hard to see on camera, but there are etched lines to help you line up your card panels. I have an A2 top folding card base for this, and I'm also using a paper tray ink. I think it's called Snowfall Stencil. This is a two-piece stencil set. I wanted to add some little bursts of color to my sky rather than going with the predictable clouds. Typically, you see the cloud stencil when you're doing scene building. I would like to suggest that instead of using clouds, that you look at your stencils and use other shapes and styles. So flowers would be a really pretty background. You could do stripes, you could do circles. I think it adds a little bit more interest and a little bit more pizzazz when you go with something that is a little bit more unexpected. So that's what we're doing today with our card. I do have a beautiful blue ink from Catherine Pooler. I want to say it's like Forget Me Not or something. I'll have it on the screen. I'll go back in and edit it so that I can put the color on the screen. But it's a beautiful blue. You notice that I'm only adding it 3/4 of the way down. Because I do have that fence with grass, I do want to add a little bit of color to the bottom as well. But first I'm going to take what's left on my brush and I'm going to add that blue over top the stenciling, being more heavier, darker on the outside, lighter on the inside. The reason for that is it's going to draw your eye in towards the center so you can see how much lighter my touch is as I'm adding that color over the stenciling. I'm going to go back into my ink and I'm just going to add a little bit more because I did want it to be a little bit darker, and then I'll bring in that green. I went with a more muted tone for the grass, so this is Catherine Pooler's Martini, and you can see that it's not a super vibrant ink, but I just wanted something along the bottom of that fence line so that it showed the grass continuing through. I had some purple in my card, and I wanted to add that to the background, so I just did a little bit of splattering with Catherine Pooler's Fuchsia. And as I take the stencil off, you can see that I have a nice white border, very clean across around the whole outside of my card. I don't have any extra card panel for this. As I mentioned, I did just add the stenciling directly onto my card base, which I really don't do all that often, so I like having the clean look on this particular card. I'm going to build everything for my fence together, so I've added the presents underneath the grass, and now I'm just adding that grass across the top. When I place everything on my card, I'm going to make sure that the fence is overhanging on the left side because my hedgehog is also going to be overhanging where I did my masked stenciling. And there you can see why I added that green to the bottom of my card, because I was going to add the fence a little bit higher. I am making sure that that balloon is going to fall below my happy birthday, so I've placed it on my card panel. I'm adding the shadow to my happy and to my birthday, and when I place it on the card, this is going to allow me to make sure that I have perfect placement by doing this dry fitting with the hedgehog. So I'll straighten everything out just a little bit. I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of the happy birthday once I get this tittle put on. Those little things get lost so easily, don't they? When I remove the release paper, I'm going to add a little bit of wet glue to the back. You can see I've put everything in place, just making sure that I get, as I mentioned, that birthday at the diagonal, but making sure that I have room for my balloon. And then I'll put the word happy across the top. I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of my hedgehog. Again, I love dimension, so having that dimension on the happy birthday adds that little pop, especially since I went with the single layer for my stenciling on that background. And here's where you're going to see where I'm going to align that fence a little bit to the left, making sure those slats are overhanging. I'll do the same thing with my hedgehog, and that will complete my card for today. I did want to mention there is a brand new Easter release available. For a limited time, if you purchase the entire release, it's 65% off. There is a video before mine that shows all of the products. I will be featuring that in my next card. I hope you enjoyed this video. Here's a quick close-up of that card, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Thanks so much for watching.